Let's go! Okay?
All right. Yeah, Peaches got it.
Yippee!
Here we go.
What's going on? We're back for another edition of the Funtendo Market Report. Let's jump right into the action. The Dow Jones Industrial Average up 129.82 points today. The NASDAQ up 265.39 points. And the S&P up 59 points for the day.
Yeah!
Jumping into the Nikkei 225. The Nikkei down bad, minus 492.07.
Oh, wow.
Let's jump into the other London FTSE indices. All indices are up. Let's jump into the live gold spot price today. Gold is up $8.20 and silver is up 15 cents per ounce.
Here we go.
Taking a look at the exchange rates, the dollar is down against every major currency
Oh, wow.
following a sell-off of a lot of stocks in the last couple of days. Let's check in on cryptocurrency prices. Bitcoin at $67,447.98, near its all-time high. Ethereum following at $3,861.33, also near its all-time high. Let's jump into Mario's Madness, where we cover the top stock gainers and the top stock losers of the day. Leading the pack, Rentokil Initial PLC up 18.23%. The Chemours Company up 16.57%. Airhouse up 12.91%. Avangrid Inc. up 12.30%. And rounding out the top five, Linamar Corporation up 12.22%. Let's get into the top losers of the day. Teleperformance SE down 21.54%.
Mamma mia!
Viking Therapeutics Inc. down 17.93%. Sienna Corporation down 12.67%. ADT Inc. down 11.51%. And Sivanto and Stevanto Group SPA down 9.34%. Let's jump into Peach's Paycheck, where we cover the top consumer news.
New cost of living numbers caused a one-day sell-off on Wall Street. Stocks took a beating yesterday after a government report revealed inflation is not cooling as quickly as expected. In January, the Consumer Price Index was up 3.1% from a year ago. In today's Money Watch, CBS News business analyst Jill Schlesinger is here to tell us what's driving these numbers. So what do these numbers tell us?
Well, inflation's coming down. We were at a peak in the summer of 2022 of over 9%. Now we're at 3.1%. But there are parts of the economy that are still suffering from high prices. In this report, energy came down. But if you're eating out, food away from home, really costing more.
Yeah.
Crazy. Car insurance up by more than 20% from a year ago. So it's coming down. It's just not coming down as fast as we would like.
What does this report mean for housing costs?
Well, it's interesting. In the report, there is a part that's called shelter, and it measures the rent. But if you own a house, it says, hey, what would it cost you to rent that house out in the open market now? That number, shelter, it's up by 6% from a year ago.
Mia!
This represents 2/3 of the total CPI, and that means until those shelter costs come down, we are not going to see inflation come down. Importantly, if you're owning a home, it doesn't matter what it would cost you to rent in the marketplace. You're not feeling it that way.
Jumping into other Peaches Paycheck news, LinkedIn goes down on Wednesday following Facebook outage on Super Tuesday. Multiple users were momentarily unable to access LinkedIn through their website or mobile app on Wednesday. The service provider confirms a significant outage that left users unable to use the platform for about an hour. Services began resuming around 5 p.m. Eastern Time, according to the company. LinkedIn's status page said the company will continue to investigate the issue. Sorry about the interruption. We're back up and running, LinkedIn wrote in an update on Wednesday. Avoid these common mistakes that can delay your tax return.
We're going to go over some common mistakes that could trip you up and delay that refund you've been waiting on. CNBC select contributor Brittany Jones Cooper is here to help. Brittany, good morning. Welcome back.
Yes, we have a lot. So she told me we have to get ready. She said fast and
We're
furious.
going in about taxes.
We're going in with taxes. All right, so let's talk about our taxes. First and foremost, how do you figure out when to file?
Yeah, you don't want to file too early. You don't want to file too late. If you file too early, then you may forget some of the documents you need. So I say start by gathering those documents.
Okay.
Your W-2s, your 1099s if you did freelance work, your 1095 health insurance form. That usually comes a little later. So look through your mail, get everything together, then you can get started.
You brought up a good point. People will file trying to get started, and then you're finished, and then you're like, oh, wait, I just got this envelope.
Yeah,
I just got this
and then
envelope.
you
I
have to
got
amend the
it.
note. Wait until that April 15th deadline, because then if you hit any delays, then you're going to file late. And if you file late, there are penalties for that.
Yeah.
Mamma
Even
mia.
if you owe money, you have to pay your taxes on April 15th, even if you don't file. Right? So then they hit you with a failure to pay fee and a failure to file fee back to back, maxing out at 25% of the taxes owed. Plus interest. Yeah, so it really pays to file and pay on time. If you need an extension, which we talked about, you can ask for one that gives you 6 more months or until October 15th. And then there is no really relief for the payment other than a payment plan that you can apply for through the IRS website, but that's not
So
guaranteed.
extension doesn't mean you don't have to pay.
No, you still got to pay that money.
All right,
Yeah.
Craig, yours.
All right,
Yeah,
I mean, no one
Peaches
wants
got
to
it.
leave money on the table when it comes to filing our taxes. So what are some tips there? How can we make sure that we're maximizing our return?
Do you know about credits and deductions?
I do know about credits and deductions.
A lot of people get confused. So if you go to the IRS website, they actually list all the credits and deductions available for you. And there are credits on there for like being a caregiver, going back to school, making below a certain income. There's also deductions for cool things like having an office in your home or paying interest on your student loan debt.
Peachy.
The thing here is you want to read the fine print because there's different eligibility requirements. So for that student loan debt, deduction, you have to have, I believe, a modified adjusted gross income below $70,000.
Mamma
So
mia.
for something that doesn't apply to you. And at the end, it does help with the credits and the deductions to use the online tax software because it runs you through it and it does the math for you.
Okay.
Peachy.
So, Brittany, I feel like we hit this point where you're like, okay, I think it's good.
Yeah.
Send. I hope I did this right. How
I
can you
know.
make sure everything you did is correct?
Yeah. And I know we all just want to send it and have a glass of wine and pat ourselves on the back.
Yes.
Take
Here
a
we
moment,
go.
read it over first. Even if somebody else prepares it for you, take a minute to read it over. The number one mistake on tax returns, math mistakes.
Mamma
so take your
mia.
calculator, check anything that you added or subtracted yourself, any numbers you entered manually, even spell check your name. So all of these things will make your filing process more easy. This is where the online tax software is actually really helpful. The IRS says that if you e-file, it's actually a 1% chance of error, versus if you paper file, it's a 21% chance of error.
Wow, that's a big difference.
Yeah, so keep that in mind.
Let's jump into the next segment, Wario's recklessness.
Here I go.
U.S. salaries are falling. Employers say compensation is just resetting.
Why, yeah.
Salaries for new roles are stagnating and in some cases falling. Some employers may be looking to cut costs, but the lack of wage growth may be a matter of post-pandemic correction. The mass U.S. layoffs in the past few years are continuing. In 2024 alone, thousands of workers across many sectors, including media and technology, have lost their jobs and are on the hunt for new ones. But some are finding an unwelcome surprise as they scan listings for new roles. A salary bump is all but impossible in many cases. Wages seem lower than their previous pay, even for the same jobs. They aren't imagining things. A 2023 report on pay trends from ZipRecruiter showed 48% of 2,000 U.S. companies surveyed lowered pay for certain roles. But experts say companies aren't necessarily just seizing a moment in a tight job market to reduce costs. In some cases, stagnant and even lowered salaries are the result of an overdue reset for a pandemic-era surge in compensation when companies were scrambling to fill roles during the Great Resignation. The effect oversupply. The tightening labor market has left U.S. workers with fewer options than years earlier. Beginning 2020, employers boosted salaries to new heights to attract talent to a deluge of open roles. But amid an uncertain economy, employers have pulled back from new hires and cut jobs. There is now less competition to hire workers and therefore less need to boost wages. Job postings have dropped quite a bit while the supply of workers has grown. Let's jump into the next segment, Bowser's blunders. Dumb, really dumb. Dave Ramsey launches into an epic rant on 3 of the most common money mistakes people make. Across 32 years of giving people financial advice on the airwaves, Dave Ramsey has probably seen it all. But on a recent episode of The Ramsey Show, he notes financial mistakes callers frequently make that can be described as dumb, really dumb. Co-buying property. Ramsey despises the prospect of buying property with anyone besides a spouse. He advises against this even in long-term relationships. If you're shacking up, don't buy a house with your roommate, he said. That's dumb. Upgrading cars. Ramsey says a total car is not a reason to upgrade. You were driving a $6,000 car, he said. Your car gets totaled. You get a check for $6,000. Suddenly, $6,000 cars aren't good enough for you. That's dumb. However, the high cost of vehicles could make this financial error difficult to avoid. The average cost of a new car in January was around $47,400 according to Kelley Blue Book, while the average used car listing was around $25,300.
Mamma mia!
Overspending on education. Investing in your education, Ramsey believes, should yield higher earnings. Otherwise, it's a wasted pursuit. Don't spend $250,000 getting a master's degree in sociology so you can be a caseworker for the state making $38,000, he said. He believes students should realistically consider their career prospects and future earnings before going into debt for college. Indeed, Americans are collectively sitting on $1.6 trillion in student loan debt, according to the Education Data Initiative. It takes individuals about 20 years to pay off their student loan debts, while some grads may take 45 plus years to do so. Let's jump into the next segment. DK's Dummy of the Day. Crown of Thorns kook gets collared. Authorities. Incident left female victim 74 frightened. A man wearing a crown of thorns and carrying a piñata menaced an elderly woman as she walked to work early morning, according to Florida authorities, who say the suspect denied accosting the victim and claimed he was only, quote, singing and dancing to his leprechaun song. Ruth Bullard, a 74-year-old realtor, called 911 to report that a man approached her and began screaming at the top of his lungs a series of horrible profanities. Bullard said the encounter left her frightened. As she recounted the 10 a.m. incident, Bullard appeared to be emotionally distraught and began crying. Authority identified the suspect as Gregory Zopf, 37, a notorious Hobe Sound nuisance who has an extensive history that includes trespassing, harassment, disorderly conduct, and other charges. Let's jump into Bowser's Beauties Thursday.
Here we go.
Let's go!
Okay. You stupid.
Let's jump into the final segment, Yoshi's Yummies. FDA warns about lead contamination in more cinnamon products in the U.S. The Food and Drug Administration said in a safety warning Wednesday that it identified additional cinnamon products in the U.S. that are contaminated with lead. The ground cinnamon products found contain lead are La Fiesta from La Superior Supermercados, Markham from Save-A-Lot, MK from SF Supermarket, Swad from Patel Brothers, Supreme Tradition from the Dollar Tree and Family Dollar, and El Shalar from La Joya Morelens.
Parents say they are still so concerned about their kids' long-term health after they got lead poisoning months after Wanabana recalled its cinnamon applesauce pouches because of high levels of lead. Parents like this mom, Alyssa Magnuson, you see her there with her little 18-month-old baby girl, Stevie. Alyssa said Stevie had high lead levels in her blood after eating the applesauce. She told our team about how guilty she still feels even now. Members of Congress are paying attention here. You see Senator Amy Klobuchar, she is now re-upping her push for the FDA to do something more about heavy metals in kids' food. Watch.
You think you're safe when you use a cinnamon-flavored applesauce pack, and it turns out you are basically giving your child poison. The items have been recalled, but people still have things in their cupboard, so the number one goal here is to make sure it's all out of the commerce system.
That's going to wrap it up for the Funtendo Market Report on today, Thursday, March 7, 2024. And remember, if it don't make dollars, it don't make sense.
Take that! Bingo! Bye-bye!
See you next time!